Now we are moving to the second lesson of microbiology. In microbiology, we have to study morphological and biological properties of microorganisms. But morphological and biochemical properties of microorganisms can't be directly studied. For an example, if you want to study microorganisms found in soil sample or water sample, we can't study them in the field. We have to bring the samples to the lab. Then we have to grow the microorganisms found in those samples in artificial culture media. Then only we can study morphological and biochemical properties of those microorganisms. Therefore, it is essential to culture microorganisms on artificial culture media to study morphological and biological properties of them. Therefore, in this video, we are discussing some basic laboratory techniques that used in culturing of microorganisms without any contaminations. Those are sterilization techniques that commonly used, then about preparation of artificial culture media, and finally we are discussing simple staining procedure. First, we are moving to methods of sterilization. These sterilization techniques are very important to culture microorganisms without any contaminations. If these methods are not followed, microorganisms in the surrounding medium or the surrounding environment will also grow in our culture media other than the microorganisms of interest. Therefore, first we will discuss what sterilization is. So, sterilization means the process of removal or destruction of all forms of microbial life, including their endospores. You know that endospores are resting structures produced by some bacteria for their survival. So, in sterilization, all forms of microbial life should be removed. So, underline that part in your definition. Basically, we can divide sterilization methods into two categories. Those are physical methods of sterilization and chemical methods of sterilization. First, we are moving to physical methods of sterilization. Under that, some basic techniques followed are mentioned here. Those are moist heat sterilization, dry heat sterilization, pasteurization, boiling, membrane filtration, and UV radiation. First physical method of sterilization is moist heat sterilization. In this method, moist heat is used to destroy microorganisms present in materials like culture media, temperature stable reagents or fluids, and laboratory utensils. Remember here, if the fluid or the culture medium that we used here is thermolabile or unstable at high temperatures, such culture media or fluids can't be sterilized using moist heat sterilization, because you can observe here in this slide the temperature applied in moist heat sterilization is 121 degrees of Celsius. It is comparatively high temperature. If thermolabile substances like proteins, enzymes, or sometimes serum proteins can be denatured in this temperature. Therefore, thermolabile fluids or culture media can't be sterilized using this method. So what actually happens in moist heat sterilization? Here, due to moist heat, microorganisms are destroyed by denaturing of proteins by high temperature and pressure. That's a principle applied in this sterilization method. So underline that principle or highlight that in your note. The common example of moist heat sterilization is autoclaving. Actually, autoclave is the instrument used in this method. You can observe there's a diagram in this slide. It represents an autoclave. The pressure and temperature can be adjusted within that autoclave. Okay, here you have to memorize these conditions in each sterilization technique. So conditions used in autoclaving are steam with 121 degrees of Celsius at the pressure of 1 atm or 1 atmospheric pressure or 15 pounds per square inch. PSI means pounds per square inch. This temperature and pressure should be applied for 15 minutes in an autoclave. At these conditions, microorganisms will be destroyed, but prions and the endospores of microorganisms can't be destroyed using this autoclaving. Remember that. So which type of materials can be stabilized using autoclaving? Simply we can say items that withstand high pressure and high temperature can be sterilized using autoclaving. For an example, culture media, water, solutions, syringes and needles, healthcare instruments, and glassware. Here, when you are autoclaving glassware, ensure that the steam should contact all surfaces of glassware. That means, in other words, you can cover the glasswares when autoclaving. And also here, culture media should be thermostable. Thermolabile culture media containing thermolabile proteins, enzymes, or sometimes serum can't be autoclaved because those thermolabile substances can be denatured during autoclaving at high temperature. Okay, also you have to memorize some basic steps that you have to follow when preparing these culture media water solutions for autoclaving. Those steps are given in a practical handbook. So download the practical handbook and go through those. We will simply discuss. Okay, here when preparing culture media, water or solutions for autoclaving, these basic steps should be followed. First, you have to sterilize all the glassware that used for uh, autoclaving. That means you can use water, you can use test tubes, flasks, sometimes bottles to contain these culture media, water solutions. All those glassware should be sterilized properly. Then you can place these culture media, water solutions within those containers, within the test tubes, within flasks or bottles as appropriate. After that, you have to plug the containers with cotton wool and cover with aluminum foil or paper. Here in these diagrams in the slide, you can observe the openings of the containers have covered with aluminum foil. What's the importance of covering those uh, containers with aluminum foil? Because one thing is when you are taking this sterilized culture media out of the autoclave, if you have not covered them, they can be contaminated by microorganisms found in the environment. So simply microorganisms in air can move into those culture media when you take these sterilized samples out of the autoclave. Okay, but remember here there's another step. If you use bottles with screw caps, then before placing them into autoclave, loosen the screw cap slightly. Is important. Otherwise, if you tighten the screw cap uh, of those bottles, then those bottles can be damaged during autoclave due to high temperature and high pressure. Okay. In addition to that, remember pressure cooker can also use for moist heat sterilization. We will move to second physical method of sterilization, that is dry heat sterilization. So this is used to destroy microorganisms present in materials like glassware, petri dishes, pipettes, inoculation loops, inoculation needles, and scalpels. Basically, there are three methods of dry heat sterilization. First, we will move to the first method, that is direct flaming. So which kind of materials can be sterilized using direct flaming? Those are inoculation loops, inoculation needles, and scalpel blades. You can observe here, there's a diagram of inoculation loop. Those inoculation loops are used to introduce microorganisms into culture media. So simply what is done in direct framing is inoculation loops, needles, scalpel blades are heated on flames of Bunsen burner or hot spirit lamp until they reach red hot. You can observe in this diagram, inoculation needle is burned on flames on a Bunsen flame. So what happens during this burning until they reach red hot? Microorganisms are burned into ash. That's the principle. All microorganisms will be burned into ash. Then after the inoculation loop become red hot, we can keep it for some time until it is cooled down. Then such sterilized inoculation loop or needle can be used to introduce microorganisms into a culture medium. The second method of dry heat sterilization is incineration. Simply, an incineration oven is used here, which is used to sterilize hospital waste. You can observe there's a diagram in this slide. So which principle is applied in incineration? As in direct flaming, here also microorganisms are burned into ash. Okay, then we will move to third method of dry heat sterilization, that is called hot air sterilization. Here, for hot air sterilization, dry air oven or hot air oven can be used. So memorize these conditions applied in hot air sterilization. So here, within the dry air oven, the temperature should be kept about 170 degrees of Celsius for 2 hours. So what happens to microorganisms in this temperature? So microorganisms are killed by oxidation. That is the principle. Okay, remember these conditions carefully. Okay, then which kind of materials can be sterilized using hot air sterilization? Glassware like petri dishes, flasks, beakers, bottles, and glass pipettes can be easily sterilized using hot air sterilization within a dry air oven. Here also, before placing these glasswares into dry air oven, some basic steps should be followed. They are also given in your practical handbook. We will go to them simply. First, we have to wash glasswares and clean them. Then wipe those glasswares thoroughly and dry them thoroughly. After drying them, we have to cover those glasswares using an aluminium foil, or you can wrap those glasswares by a paper, or you can store in a container. It is necessary. Here also we have to cover these glasswares because again, when you take these sterilized glasswares out of the oven, it can be contaminated if you have not covered those glasswares. Therefore, definitely before placing them into dry air oven, cover those glasswares using an aluminium foil or paper, or put them into a suitable container. Okay, this covering those glasswares can be done like this. For conical flask, you can plug the mouth with clean cotton. Then cover the plugs with aluminium foil, as we did in autoclaving. Then for pipettes, you can plug the mouth with cotton wool and burn the cotton fibers sticking out using a Bunsen flame. Then wrap the pipettes individually in aluminium foil or paper, or store in a suitable container. Then we can, after covering, we can store all prepared glasswares in an oven at the temperature of 170 degrees of Celsius. And then we have to keep those glasswares for about 2 hours. Now we are moving to pasteurization. Actually, Louis Pasteur found that spoilage of beer and wine can be prevented by applying mild heat. That mild heat kills microorganisms that cause spoilage without seriously damaging the taste, texture, and nutritional content of the product. Later, the same principle was applied to milk products, now known as pasteurized milk. That means simply pasteurization is done for milk. In addition to that, it can be done for beer and wine as well, mainly for milk. What's the objective of pasteurization? It is to eliminate pathogenic microorganisms and reduce microbial number, which prolongs milk quality under refrigeration. But remember one thing here, pasteurization kills most of the living microorganisms, but not their spores. Most of the spores of microorganisms are not destroyed by pasteurization. That means even after pasteurization, after some time, those spores in milk can germinate and produce living microorganisms. then spoilage can begin. Okay, then there are two main methods of pasteurization. Those are low temperature long time method and high temperature short time method. First we will discuss those. Okay, then in low temperature long time pasteurization, milk is pressurized at 63 degrees of Celsius for 30 minutes. As indicated in the name, it's comparatively long time, 30 minutes. In contrast, in high temperature short time method, milk is pressurized at 72 degrees of Celsius only for 15 seconds. Those are the two main methods. In addition to that, milk can be sterilized using ultra heat temperature. It is known as UHT. In that method, milk is sterilized at 140 degrees of Celsius in less than 5 seconds. Basically, spores are not destroyed in first two methods that we mentioned. That means in high temperature short time method and low temperature long time method. The next physical method is boiling. Simply what is done here is materials like surgical instruments are boiled in water at 100 degrees of Celsius. Most of pathogenic microorganisms are killed at boiling temperature. Okay, then we can move to next method, that is membrane filtration or filtration using membrane filters. Here membrane filters are widely used to sterilize heat sensitive solutions. That means heat labile solutions like heat labile culture media. Examples here, it states solutions containing enzymes, vitamins, antibiotics, vaccines. You know these can be denatured at high temperature. Therefore, we can't use moist heat sterilization for these materials or for these solutions. And also some culture media, we said heat labile culture media can be sterilized by membrane filtration. So what happens here and what is the principle applied here? Here the solution is passed through the filter using a vacuum. You can observe in this diagram here the apparatus is connected to a vacuum which facilitates filtration through this membrane filter. The pore size of this membrane filter is from 0.01 micrometers to 0.45 micrometers in size. So then the filter retains almost all microorganisms, including viruses and some large protein molecules. The next physical method of sterilization is using UV radiation. Simply UV radiation kills microorganisms that falls into direct exposure, either through destruction or damaging DNA. That's the principle. So underline it in your note. There's a disadvantage in UV radiation. That is, UV radiation doesn't penetrate solid surfaces and coverings like paper, glass and textile. Therefore, anything to be sterilized should have direct contact with radiation. Remember that. UV radiation is used to sterilize air in hospital rooms like operating theaters and nurseries. So remember, you have to memorize the conditions applied in previous methods also, and also you have to memorize which materials or which items can be sterilized. Also you have to memorize the principle, whether there is an disadvantage or advantage, those should be memorized separately. Therefore underline those points in your note. At the beginning we said there are two basic methods of sterilization as physical methods and chemical methods. We already discussed physical methods of sterilization. Now we are moving to chemical methods of sterilization. Currently, ethylene oxide and chlorine dioxide are used as chemical sterilizing agents. These are actually gases. They involve in reducing microbial populations to safe levels, or they remove vegetative forms of pathogens. Remember, vegetative forms of pathogens. So that's the principle. So underline it in your note. We will consider these two gases separately. So if you consider ethylene oxide, it kills microorganisms and endospores, and also it's a highly penetrating gas. So it is used to sterilize mattresses in hospitals. You can observe in this diagram as a separate instrument which can be used in this chemical method of sterilization. Then about chlorine dioxide, which is used to fumigate enclosed building areas contaminated with endospores of Bacillus anthracis. So it is commonly used in water treatment prior to chlorination as well. Now we are moving to the second main aspect of this video lesson, that is preparation of culture media. We said earlier also, microorganisms cannot be studied in their natural habitat, such as in soil, water or air. In other words, simply their morphological features, biochemical properties can't be studied in the field. For an example, think if you want to study morphological and biochemical features of soil microorganisms or water or microorganisms in water, you can't do that in field. Think like this: if you obtain a sample of water or sample of soil and observe through the microscope directly in the field, you can't study their morphology or biochemical properties properly. Therefore, what we have to do to study microorganisms, they should be brought to the lab and should provide similar conditions for their growth and reproduction. In other words, they should be grown in separate culture media by providing suitable conditions. Okay, so what is this culture medium that is used in growing of microorganisms? So here we can define it like this. Culture medium is a nutrient material prepared for providing nutrition and anchorage, which are essential to the growth of microorganisms at the laboratory conditions. Simply look at that. Culture medium simply provide nutrients and anchorage, which are essential to the growth of microorganisms. After culturing microorganisms in the lab, then we can study their morphological and biochemical properties easily. Okay, then which conditions should be found in a culture medium? Suppose we want to grow a culture of microorganisms present in certain soil sample or water sample. Then these conditions should be present in culture medium. The first one is necessary nutrients, then sufficient moisture and suitable pH. Those are necessary for the proper growth of microorganisms in the culture medium. Then also, medium should be initially sterile. What is the importance of that? Here, if we do not obtain sterile culture media, contaminations can happen. That means, in other words, initially if culture medium is not sterile, microorganisms in our outer environment, in our hands or in air can deposit in our culture medium, because culture medium is a nutrient medium, so it can be easily contaminated. Then microorganisms in our surrounding environment, on our body, can easily grow as contaminants other than the species of interest. Therefore, definitely the culture media that we used should be initially sterilized. That means when preparing culture medium, all glassware and liquid nutrient solutions should be definitely sterilized. That's why we discussed sterilization techniques earlier. You can use those sterilization techniques as we discussed when preparing culture media. But there's a problem. All microorganisms can't be grown on laboratory culture media, which such microorganisms are called non-culturable microorganisms. Some microorganisms grow well in culture media, whereas others require special media. For an example, here we are discussing normal culture media that used to grow bacteria and fungi. But if you consider viruses, viruses can't be grown in such normal culture media. Normally, viruses are cultured in live chick embryos. But again, remember, all viruses can't be cultured or grown in live chick embryos. They have specific conditions. As we said earlier, there are two commonly used culture media to grow bacteria and fungi. Those are nutrient agar medium and potato dextrose agar medium. This nutrient agar medium is used to grow bacteria, and this potato dextrose agar medium is used to grow fungi. Okay, we will consider the components of this culture media separately. First, about nutrient agar medium. The components are peptone, meat extracts. We can obtain beef extract as the meat extract. Those two act as nutrients actually, which provide nutrients for the growth of microorganisms. Remember that. The next component is sodium chloride. Then agar. So agar is actually a solidifying agent and provides substrate for the growth of microorganisms. That's the purpose of adding agar. Okay, then agar remain as a liquid at above 40 degrees of Celsius. But when temperature decreases below 40 degrees of Celsius, agar start to solidify. In other words, we can say a culture medium that contain agar is a solidifying medium at room temperature. Okay, then these components should be dissolved in distilled water. The final volume of this culture medium should be 1 liter or 1000 milliliters. Then you can add peptone, meat extract, sodium chloride and agar as given in this slide in those proportions. Here we said earlier, pH value should be optimized. A proper pH value should be there for the proper growth of microorganisms. So here in nutrient agar, final pH value should be pH 7.2. Here, after preparing this culture medium, let's say there's a slight difference in pH value. We can check the pH value and imagine there's a difference in pH value than 7.2. Then we can adjust the pH value up to 7.2 by adding diluted hydrochloric acid or HCl and diluted sodium hydroxide. Those can be used like acid, like diluted HCl and diluted sodium hydroxide as a base can be used to adjust the pH value. Okay, but remember they should be diluted. Then if you consider potato dextrose agar medium, which is used to grow fungi, its components are potato, glucose. Those two act as nutrients. Then agar. Again, here it's a solidifying agent and provides substrate for the growth of microorganisms. That's the purpose of, that's the use of adding agar. Then final volume should be 1 liter. The pH value is 5.6. Here also pH value can be adjusted as we said earlier. Okay, here in preparing these microorganisms, here what we have to do is we have to dissolve these components in water. You can obtain some amount of water, not 1 liter at the beginning, get some amount of water and dissolve these materials in that water amount. But remember, it should be heated to dissolve agar. Then heat the medium, heat the solution and dissolve agar. After dissolving all the substances, you can top up water up to 1 liter. The final volume should be 1 liter. But remember, it should be heated. The temperature should be above 40 degrees of Celsius when you are dissolving. After making that culture medium, you can pour that culture medium into separate containers or separate petri dishes or into test tubes separately while it is in the liquid medium. Then you can leave those petri dishes with culture medium until it is settled. When temperature decreases below 40 degrees of Celsius, culture media will be solidified due to the presence of agar. There are practicals under microbiology in the syllabus. What we have learned so far can be applied in these practicals. Actually, these practicals are given in your practical handbook. So go through them and be familiar with this procedure. Here we will discuss those practicals in stepwise manner. Okay, first we will move to the first practical, that is preparation of microbial culture medium in laboratory and culturing microorganisms. Okay, as the first step of preparing culture medium, as we said earlier, we have to sterilize all glassware that used to prepare culture medium. For that, we can use hot air sterilization or autoclaving. Then as a next step, we can prepare nutrient agar and potato dextrose agar culture media. We discussed the preparation previously. Then after preparing those culture media, we have to sterilize those. Then for sterilization, you can use autoclaving. During autoclaving, you can sterilize those solutions at 121 degrees of Celsius for 15 minutes. The pressure should be adjusted as 15 pounds per square inch within the autoclave. Okay, then after sterilizing culture media, we can pour those culture media into separate containers. Here in the next step it is said, pour about 15 milliliters of the sterilized nutrient agar and potato dextrose agar into sterilized petri dishes using aseptic techniques. Aseptic techniques means here, that means when you are pouring this, you have to avoid contaminations of these culture media by microorganisms found in outer environment or in air or on your body. When you do this in your school lab, simply you can burn to lit 2 Bunsen burners. You can place 2 Bunsen burners at your either sides. Then due to those Bunsen burners, the microorganisms in that surrounding air will be destroyed. Then it prevents contamination of our culture media from microorganisms found in the air. And also your desktop should be completely sterilized. For that we can use alcohol. We can wipe out the desktop using alcohol. And also you have to prepare gloves. You have to wear gloves. You have to wear lab coats. Your hands should be completely sterilized. Using alcohol, you can sterilize your hands as well. Then such an environment should be created, such an aseptic environment should be created when pouring culture media into separate containers and also during introducing of microorganisms into our culture media. Remember that. Okay. Then after pour them into separate containers, we can set them aside to solidify. Then after solidifying, as the next step, label the bottom of each agar plate or test tube using a marker plate. Labeling is necessary. After preparing culture media in our petri dishes or containers, now we can inoculate or introduce microorganisms into our culture media. For that, as the first step, we can flame the inoculating loop until it reaches red hot. Then allow it to cool. Remember, don't use the inoculating loop to introduce microorganisms until it remains red hot. Keep it to cool. Then after cooling, then using the inoculating loop, you can introduce microorganisms into our culture media. Okay, then go to the next step. That is step 8. It says aseptically obtain a loop full of the sample using the inoculating loop. Here you can use toddy sample or yogurt sample as our microbial sample. Toddy contains acetic acid forming bacteria like Acetobacter species and Gluconobacter species. We can discuss those later. Yogurt also contains lactic acid forming bacteria like Lactobacillus species. Here, therefore, using the loop, you can introduce a sample of toddy or sample of yogurt into our culture media. How could you introduce that, or how could you inoculate that? For that, go to next step, that is step 9. Here it says, place a loop full of sample on the agar plate near the edge of the dish and streak on the agar surface in a zigzag pattern. Here, look at the diagram. This method of inoculating microorganisms onto an agar plate is known as streak plate method. As stated here, we place the loop full of microorganisms at a side of the petri dish and we can streak on the agar surface as shown in this diagram. So what's the purpose of making such a streak on an agar surface? It spread microorganisms on the surface. Therefore, towards the end of the streak, here it is given in number 4. In that region, you can observe microorganisms. You will find microorganisms are isolated. That means single microbial cells are isolated. Then those microbial cells will divide and form separate colonies. Then such separate colonies can be clearly observed. Their morphology can be clearly observed. But if you consider a region like region at the beginning, it is indicated in number 1. In such area, microorganisms are clustered. Then their colonies can't be clearly observed. They are not separate. So here, therefore, remember here, the streak plate method or this method is used to spread microorganisms on the surface of the agar medium. Then they will be isolated as single individual bacteria or microorganisms. And each individual microorganism or bacterium will divide and form a separate colony. Other than streak plate method, there's another method. It is indicated in this diagram. It is known as spread plate method. Spread plate method. Here in spread plate method, simply we add a small amount of our sample onto the solidifying nutrient medium and then we spread on the surface. It is not streaked, it's simply spread as in the diagram. Here also microorganisms will be isolated. Then they will form colonies. Okay. After preparing, after introducing microorganisms like this, we have to close the lid of petri dishes. Then under aseptic conditions, here we have to incubate our culture media for 24 to 48 hours at room temperature. Then finally you will obtain the colonies of microorganisms on our culture media as you observe in this diagram. The third main aspect of our lesson is staining microorganisms. First we will discuss actually why staining is essential to observe microorganisms in light microscope. Here microorganisms appear almost colorless. Therefore, when they observe through light microscope, they do not produce contrasting images. That means without staining, simply we can't observe them clearly. We can't study them clearly. Therefore, definitely we have to add stains and we have to stain microorganisms to clearly observe them. That's the importance of staining. Okay, then if you consider a simple stain, it is an aqueous or alcohol solution of a single basic dye. So what's the purpose of simple staining? Here it is said the primary purpose of simple staining is to highlight the entire microorganism so that cellular shapes, cell arrangements and basic structures are visible. So note these points on your note, highlight those or underline them. Those can be asked. Okay, some simple stains commonly used in our labs are methylene blue. It's actually a blue color dye. Second one is crystal violet. As name implies, it is violet color. Then saffronin. Saffronin is red in color. That means methylene blue. These stains stain the cell walls of bacteria. Methylene blue stain the cell walls of bacteria in blue color. Crystal violet bind to cell walls, peptidoglycan cell wall and stain cell walls in purple color. Saffronin stain in red color. Finally, there is a practical under simple staining. It is staining bacteria or microorganisms using simple staining. Here we use methylene blue. This is also given in your practical handbook or practical guide. So go through the steps. Here we are discussing the main steps and each step has a specific purpose. You have to memorize these. This practical has already asked in past papers as well, but it can be asked again. Okay, remember the main step, remember these steps and also the purposes of each of these steps. Okay, so we will go to the first step. First step is preparation of a thin smear of microorganisms on a clean glass slide. That means during that we can add a small drop of microorganisms or small drop of sample, yogurt sample or toddy sample can be used here as well. We can add a small drop of that sample onto the slide, then spread it on the slide to prepare very thin smear. It can't be thick. If the smear is comparatively thick, then microorganisms may appear as clusters, or then such microorganisms can't be individually observed. Therefore, it should be thin. So then the purpose of preparing a thin smear is to spread bacteria on the slide. Remember that. Then the individual cells can be easily observed after staining. Then the next step is after preparing a thin smear, next step is air drying the smear. Here we can after preparing the thin smear, we can keep the smear at a side until it is completely air dried. And also remember here, do not use the Bunsen burner for air drying. Just keep it aside. Okay, then what's the purpose of air drying? It is to fix bacteria onto the slide. During that, bacteria will be fixed onto the slide. Then after air drying, next step is heat fixation. So read this step. It is heat fix the smear by passing the slide through a flame 2 or 3 times. Here it is given in this diagram. You can pass the slide through the flame, Bunsen flame, 2 or 3 times. But remember, the smear should be on the top of the slide. Okay, then here during this step, microorganisms will die. Then firmly attached to the surface, onto the top surface of the slide. So therefore, the purpose of this step is enhance the adherence and to prevent remove out bacteria during washing. So finally, we have to wash the slide. Then during washing, these bacteria or the microorganisms can be removed out if you do not heat fix. And also remember here, don't heat fix before the smear is completely dried. If you heat fix before it is completely dried, then the microbial cells will be lysed. Then at the end, microorganisms can't be observed. Therefore, completely air dry, then heat fix. And also another thing happens during heat fixing. When supplying heat, the enzymes of these microorganisms will be denatured. Then it prevents autolysis of those cells. It is also another purpose, but main purpose is which enhance the adherence and it prevents the removal out of bacteria during washing. After heat fixing, now we can stain bacteria or microorganisms. So read the 4th step. It says, flood the prepared heat fixed smear with 2 or 3 drops of methylene blue and allow 30 to 60 seconds. Here you can observe in this diagram, you can flood the smear using methylene blue like this and keep it for about 30 to 60 seconds. Don't keep it for a long time. Then the entire smear will be turning to blue color. Then we can't isolate or we can't separate bacteria separately. Therefore, allow to stain only up to 30 to 60 seconds. So what's the purpose of this step? It is to stain bacteria simply. So after staining, we have to wash the smear or wash the slide using flowing tap water. So then the step is wash with tap water to remove excess stain. Here, washing should be done carefully. Don't use heavy flowing water. Open the tap slightly and wash the surface of the slide to remove excess stain. Then after washing, blot the slide carefully and slowly and then keep it for a side until it is completely dry. After drying, you can observe it under the microscope. Then you can observe bacteria in blue color like this. Our cell walls of bacteria are stained in blue color. Okay, this is the end of this lesson. It's the end of this lesson. Then go through the lesson carefully and underline the important points on your note and study it carefully. We will meet on the next lesson.